Welcome to the Impact of Our Choices. This is Randy Mashburn. The Word of God is alive and powerful, sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing even to the dividing asunder of the soul and the spirit, and of the joints and the marrow, and is a critic of thoughts and intents of the heart. All Scripture is God-breathed, and is profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness, that the man of God might be mature, thoroughly furnished, and to all good works. Study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. But today I have a special guest on my show, Hermillio Vargas, a real good friend of mine. We actually co-chair a small group. We share doing sermons and different things in there and teaching. A real good friend of mine. He has an incredible story, and I want to bring him on and share some of his testimonies and things that he's experienced. And welcome, Hermillio. How you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Well, I'm glad you came on, and I really like you as a friend, and I just like what you stand for, and I just want to have you on and to share and let people hear some of the things that you've been through and how God has dealt with you and changed you. And so first of all, I want to ask you, how were you living your life pre-Jesus? I mean, before you got saved.
Actually, I was a complete mess. I was selfish. Everything was about me. I wasn't the father that I needed to be. I wasn't the husband that my wife needed. I was a bad example to everybody around me, especially my family. I was in gangs. I was in the wrong activities. Any type of sin that you can think of, I've probably done it. Same goes for drugs. That didn't help the case at all. Just living the wrong life.
Well, that's something that everybody has to deal with. Everybody has their skeletons in their closet, and I've had mine. And so I want you to explain how and where you got saved, which is really how you found Jesus and how you got to know him.
Okay, actually work. As strange as that may seem, a gentleman named Vince McCoy, he put a book in front of me. The book was called Purpose Driven Life. He told me to read it. As I read it, it was the book was real simplified, where it helps you to understand God, God's love, our purpose in life. It was simple enough that I could understand it, and it was a good breakthrough, at least for me.
That's awesome. Well, the question I wanted to ask, how you got started into the jail ministry, the prison ministry. I know you, after God changed your heart, you have a lot of compassion for those kind of people, and because it takes a special person to go into those jails. I worked in a prison myself in Colorado as a boiler supervisor, and it's a different kind of job going into the jails and the prisons and doors locking behind you, and it's just a real creepy feeling. But it takes a special person to do that, and a heart for God, to do that. So tell me a little bit about your jail prison ministry and maybe how you first got started, and then what maybe some of the things that happened to help people, and maybe something that, maybe the one that got away that you thought you could have helped, but somehow, sometimes we water the seed. I mean, we plant the seed and somebody else has to water it. But just tell me some things about the ministry and things about it that other people might not know, the difficulties or possibly the things that you did that helped people.
Well, I think that my seed was planted long ago, probably from my mother, my father. It took the special water to come from this individual who started mentoring me, the gentleman Vince McCoy. He was an ex-biker, and this is the gentleman that got me started into the prison ministry, and I really didn't want to do it. We did our test, we went through all that, we got in there. He told me, don't talk, just listen and see how it goes. So I'm trying to just show you the ropes. Somehow or another, this is almost a year later that we've been working together, going to different churches together, even to a bar where they were having church there early in the mornings before they opened. And everybody there were bikers. So once we got inside to the prison system there, you could see the hunger for these people, that they wanted somebody to talk to, they wanted somebody to pray for them, they wanted somebody to love on them. and I couldn't keep myself quiet. So every session that we went, I spoke more, I learned more, I spoke more. And you got to realize that, it's like you said, it's not just an easy job or something, but God gives us all different jobs to do. Years ahead, I guess moving back ahead, I realized that this is what they call fighting in the trenches for the Lord. You see the difference from one day to 2 months later to 3 months later, when they see you on a weekly basis continue to show up, continue to to show them that you're here for them, that every week. Long story short, I did at least 10 years doing that. I was told to go to school, didn't want to go to school. I ended up doing 4 years of school, ended up getting a chaplain's license through the ministry of crisis chaplains. There ended up getting a psychological first aid to better understand and know how to speak to individuals. Most of all, to listen to them, to allow their pain, their hurt, their struggles to go through you, so then God can actually fix that, use you as a vessel as you should be. That's one of my stories of the whole thing in concept.
That's awesome, man. God never ceases to amaze me on how he can take people broken and turn them in to doing something good. Like Saul of Tarsus. I mean, how he was killing Christians and God changed him into Paul and a preacher to the Gentiles and had a heart for God. Is there any particular? Can you share a time where you feel like you really impacted somebody's life and that they had remorse and that they probably gave their life to Christ inside the jail?
I was getting an award, and I keep bringing up these awards and these things. None of these things were possible. It's not me bragging on me. It's what God can do with an individual, as Paul said, with a wretched man like me. So when I speak on these things that I have, they were given to me. And more important, they were given to me by God. He's the one that allowed me to get these things. And you got to realize the more certificates that you get, your chaplaincy, it opens more doors so you can go to work and reach out more people. After going to school, did 4 years, came back. I had more knowledge. At this point, I wasn't just preaching, I was teaching, and I had I'm not going to say a class, but it's a pod. It's POD. That's what they call when you have, you're supposed to have a minimum of 50. But I think at that time, they got too many people in there too many inmates. They had probably close to 80. And everybody came, even from the upstairs down. They got off their beds. They went down there. They listened. They turned off the TVs. They heard me preach to them. And long story short, this guy came up to me at the end. And you're not supposed to have any kind of contact, hug each other, this and that. Maybe a little handshake. That's about it. This guy picked me up and he was whispering in my ears. And this guy was probably like 6'4", big black person. And he told me, my mother's a preacher, and I can honestly tell you that it wasn't you that spoke to them today. It was the Holy Spirit that spoke to them today. He says, look in front of you and look at everybody. Everybody's paying attention. Everybody's listening. You have made this pod a whole lot better than what it was before you came in.
So, it's the little things in life that, we don't, like you said, these people in the prison, they need love too. And if they can ask God for forgiveness and be forgiven. Now, I know the victims' parents and things that happen, they have to deal with that too, forgiveness. And it's not easy. God don't forget about people in prisons. And if they cry out to him for forgiveness, he wants them to have that. And he wants to teach them and love them too. And I just think it's a really good ministry to go out and talk to people and reach out and touch people that, they don't have nothing. They don't have no freedom to go out to choose a church or to be picky on what they have. They have what God sends them in there. And I truly believe that when you go into a prison like that, God sends you in there. I think it's a minister of the Lord. And then, man, that's a real, we see in the Bible where, how many times Saul was, well, Paul was jailed, and he wrote a lot of the Bible from the jails. And there's also people in there that's had bad situations and possibly even innocent. Maybe they were set up, but that's all for God in the courts. But we just have to be the foot and eyes for Jesus, and to go and in the places where it seems where no one wants to go, and that's a big deal right there. Is taking the commandment to go and preach to all the world, even into the jails. So, is there a particular situation where you think maybe there was someone that you was reaching out to, and possibly just you thought that they were going to accept Christ or something, but then at the last minute maybe it just slipped away? I mean, I'm doing a study, a broadcast on the one the catch that got away, the big catch that got away, and it's similar dealing with this. And I just want to know if you ever kind of had that feeling like you just couldn't finish what you were doing. Maybe you had somebody real close, but you did plant a seed.
Before, because of COVID and everything else that was going through all the different changes in the jail system, they're always going through changes. They're overpopulated. They're sending them to other states. So you can imagine all the turmoil inside of there for the chaplains, for the guards, for the inmates, overcrowding, places to sleep. There was a young man, and I believe the young man, we sat there and we talked, and we went through tears together, and he talked about that he wanted to commit suicide, that he had tried at least twice by taking drugs, jumping in front of a car, and somehow God saved him. Me, myself, as growing up, I should have died probably 3-4 times, but you look back and you realize, and this is through all the gang life stuff, been stabbed in the throat, the windpipe, my chest, my lung, and all at the same time. How I survived that, it's God's will. He allowed me and this gentleman to survive these things, to meet each other, to help each other. Because when you're helping somebody else through God, it's also helping you out. It's a sense of peace. It's letting you know that God exists and He's creating these miracles for both of y'all. So it's just letting you know that He's alive. And I was trying to mentor this gentleman, and I was talking to him, and he's going through this thing, and he had a feminine look about him, and he explained to me that his sexual tendencies were the opposite of a normal man, of a heterosexual. And that wasn't going to stop me. I mean, we all have sins, and there's different sins. And if you go back to where I was at, if there was a sin that needed to be broken, I probably broke it. If there was something wrong to do, I probably done it. And that's why I had so much compassion. The way God had compassion for me, I had this compassion for these men. At that one time, they stopped us from allowing us from going back in there. And that's where I felt that hopefully he didn't get away. Hopefully he did learn something, or he picked up enough strength where he can go forward, because the things that he shared, that he was abused by his mother's boyfriend, and I mean sexually abused, so all these things take a toll on him. He was in there for assault, a lot of things, and those are the things that just stay in the back in your mind. You feel that there was a job that was undone. There was nothing I could do at that point. So, I mean, that's one of the individuals to answer that question in the long term.
Right. Well, I believe that your presence there and what you did a lot more than you realize. You didn't get to finish. And that's a feeling that through my times of ministering to people, I've shared, but there's times you just, like with little Jeff, his family got evicted and moved off, and he was in our neighborhood, and I never got to completely finish ministering to him or pray for him to receive Christ. But the same thing with your experiencing, it's kind of like, man, if I could have just had a little more time or a little more things, but God knows you planted the seed, and you just never know. I mean, all he has to do is accept Christ by prayer, and you never know if he done that or not. And you never know if he changed or not. I mean, so is is it a lot harder now in the prisons to get in there, and is there a lot more restrictions on the prisons now that make it harder on people to minister to people, or is it kind of the same?
I believe so. I haven't been back there since that time. It's been about at least a year and a half. It's been in my heart. The last time I was at church, which I seen you at church, I asked God, I said, it's been on my mind to go back. You know, you get tired of being on the sidelines. I know the class that we have it's spiritual. It's a place that we can speak to each other, pray with each other, and trust in the things that we share with each other, you know, stays among us. And that's a class that I don't want to quit, or, you know, but I feel that I'm on the sidelines still. I made contact with them to try to get back in there to see if I'm allowed to go back in there. Are they allowing chaplains to go back in there? Because there's a lot of crime, you know, even the people that visit are bringing in drugs, all the way down to even a lawyer that came out on the news. It was bringing drugs through paperwork, you know. So I'm sure it's not easy. I'm sure it's getting harder because they're overpopulated. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. And if it was easy, what's the reason of doing it? Anything worth doing is never going to be easy. And the devil's always going to try to fight us. But as long as we stay firm in our eyes on God, there ain't nothing we can't get through. You keep mentioning Paul. Paul the Apostle said, I can do all things through him who strengthened me. And that's the attitude that we need to have, that there ain't nothing we can't do without God's help. So that's where I'm at.
Well, that's right. You know, I really admire your courage and selflessness to go in to help some of these people. You know, a lot of people look at them just as thugs or things like that. But, you know, you got to have the heart of Christ to look at them deeper, to know that Christ still loves them, that they need encouraging and, you know, the Word of God, and to be brought to them. And who's going to bring it if you don't go, right? So I really honor you for that. Well, thank you for coming on and interviewing today. I think it's a good interview, and I hope that if you're in prison today that, you know, you might hear this and realize that, you know, people are trying to come in and help you and pray for you and love on you, and, you know, just be open to receive Christ, you know, because he'll never let you down. Again, Hermillio, I thank you for coming on, and so you have been listening to The Impact of Our Choices. Please join me next time on Blues to Joy Hope Radio. Thank you.